Right now in a special edition of ABC Action News. Lessons learned after 3 hurricanes impact the Bay Area. High storm surge and heavy rain flooding homes and businesses.
I hope they're listening. Find a way to pay your flood insurance.
It's another cost adding to insurance premiums that are already sky high in the Sunshine State.
To be able to afford the larger premiums, well, we have to dip into savings.
And for many, insurance isn't even making them whole.
A lot of people are just selling their homes and walking away.
Right now, we go in depth into the state of insurance and its added cost to the price of paradise.
I felt like Florida was such a paradise, and sometimes with the rising cost and everything, I feel like it's paradise lost now.
Hello and welcome to a special edition of ABC Action News. As we take a look at the state of insurance here in Florida, we have made it a commitment to you to listen to your frustrations and help you navigate Florida's fractured insurance market. Now shaken once again after what has been a devastating storm season for so many of you. 3 hurricanes hitting in less than 2 months, causing millions in damages and thousands of homes lost right here in the Tampa Bay area. It hasn't gotten any easier. That is why over the next hour, we will walk you through what you need to know about the state of insurance as we wrap up 2024. And we begin with a big takeaway after these 3 hurricanes, Debbie, Helene, and Milton, all of them causing flooding across the Bay Area. For many homeowners, it is the first time they had ever seen the water rise like this. This is actually the Laurel Meadows neighborhood in Sarasota in the aftermath of Debbie. It's not in a flood zone. This is something we have heard time and time again from neighbors with feet of water inside of their homes.
86 homes, and there's maybe 5 people I know of that have flood insurance.
And she's not alone. Only around 1 in 5 Floridians has flood insurance. That's leaving 80% of people at risk here in Florida. Experts tell us that you should know your zone, but just because the risk might be lower, it is leading to a false sense of security that you won't flood. It's simply not true. ABC Action News in-depth reporter Michael Paluska sat down with the experts about the best way to weigh your risks, and it turns out the answer is simple.
Florida is a peninsula. We all know that we're surrounded by water on all 3 sides. It is everywhere. So you have to remember this. If you live anywhere in the state of Florida, you live in a flood zone.
It's like getting hit with a bolt of lightning. It's very low percentage, but it can happen.
Forget the flood maps. Don't just rely on the flood maps.
If I wanted to be in a flood zone, I'd go live on a canal and say, okay, we're going to live on a flood zone.
It took everything from us. I was kind of in awe from everything that we lost in the house. More so all of our kids' stuff. Everything else is replaceable. Sorry.
That's the water line in here.
So biohazard, and everything else, right?
Everything in here.
Like countless others, parish resident Justin Short did not have flood coverage for his rental home.
He didn't tell us we were in a flood zone. He told us we had to have renter's insurance. Did not tell us we had to have flood insurance. I didn't realize we were in a flood zone.
And while on vacation in the Keys, his work truck flooded. And he tells me it cost him his job.
He said, don't worry about coming in tomorrow. You're unemployed. Un-effing believable. I was completely shocked because I 100% thought he was a better person than that.
Short is not alone dealing with the confusion and anger caused by the fallout from Debbie. Days after the storm,
And I'm here in the Laurel Meadows community in Sarasota.
Jada Williams was on the ground talking to people who also lost it all.
I laugh, but it's like a laugh borderline cry. 20 years old this neighborhood is, and it never flooded. Yeah, exactly. Ian, Irma, all the hurricanes we've had.
I would say it was a unprecedented event.
Noah Taylor is a floodplain expert with Sarasota County. He tells me the way that people interpret a 100-year storm event like Debbie is wrong.
And a lot of people say, well, I've been here 60 years. I've got another 40 years before it floods my property. And that's just not the case.
A lot of people are struggling right now. What can they do to protect themselves now for the next storm?
Get flood insurance.
In Sarasota County with photojournalist Reed Moeller, Michael Paluska, ABC Action News.
FEMA reports that as little as 1 inch of water can cause $25,000 worth of damage to a home. And if you have at least 18 inches of damage, Well, that could require repairs to your electrical system, heating and cooling system, doors, appliances, cabinets. Obviously, this can add up. And if you don't have flood insurance, you may be responsible for all of those costs. Over 20% of flood insurance claims come from outside flood zones, and you shouldn't wait to get insured. If you are purchasing flood insurance, there's usually a 30-day waiting period before it takes effect. And the lesson on the importance of flood insurance really started back in August after Hurricane Debbie dropped rain for hours, causing never-before-seen flooding, leaving dozens of homes, once again, not even in a flood zone, underwater. And we are looking at some of the damage done by Debbie. According to state data, about 3/4 of the claims had been closed. That's what you see here in the red and orange. And of those already closed, almost 68% were closed without any payment at all. No money paid out. The reason why? Well, homeowners learned that their property insurance does not cover flood. This is something that we have talked about so much since Debbie. We're going to take you back to the Laurel Meadows subdivision in Sarasota County that we mentioned just a few minutes ago. This saw major flood damage. 86 of the homes there were flooded out, and neighbors say only 4 of these homeowners had flood insurance. That means the other 82, despite being under all of this water, are now being left high and dry by their insurance companies.
That's what's left.
More than a month later, and Allison Cavallaro is still drying out traces of flood water in her Sarasota home.
And we're still pulling up tile and that might be wet. We have to check that still.
One of 86 homes in the Laurel Meadows subdivision submerged in water. Today,
That's a ghost town.
only sounds of contractors working on now gutted homes, and most here, including Allison,
They wouldn't cover, of course, because it's flood.
are getting no help from homeowners insurance.
I was denied. Right. Yeah.
Is that something new that you learned?
I learned everything. I've never had a flood. I've never had a disaster. I've never had to do any of this. So yeah, it's all very new to me.
So Allison found herself where she now needed to submit a hurricane claim, and she did everything that she possibly could for her insurance company to cover it. She recorded how high the water came up. You could see it right here. Took pictures of it. The adjuster came out. He looked at it. Still, she was denied. She's one of literally dozens in her neighborhood who says had their hurricane claims closed out with no payment. According to data from the Office of Insurance Regulation, of the nearly 20,000 insurance claims submitted, nearly 60% are already closed. But take a look at this. Of those claims closed, more than half were closed without payment. 58% of homeowners now left with their claims denied.
It kind of is a shot to the gut whenever an adjuster says, I'm so sorry, we cannot extend coverage.
Lisa Miller is a former Florida deputy insurance commissioner, not surprised to see so many claims were denied so quickly.
It doesn't take long to determine that it's a flood and not a wind claim. Claims adjusters from the property insurance companies, because just remember, flood loss is not covered in a property insurance homeowner's insurance policy. And so many people think that it is. And so much of what Debbie brought to us was just a lot of water flooding these homes.
What options are there for these homeowners who this was a flood event and they were told that you're not getting any money from your property insurance company?
There's 3 things that they can do. One, of course, is take out a personal loan and or if they've got equity in their home, borrow with that to get their home repaired. Secondly, see what FEMA has to offer. And third, of course, is a lot of people are just selling their homes and walking away.
Getting an SBA disaster loan is the only option Allison has left.
I guess I'll live in my trailer a little bit longer.
Still hoping FEMA pulls through.
I would say read every word in the policy. Definitely flood insurance, and don't shortcut it. Get the real private insurance. Get the good stuff. And Allison looked into it. If she had a flood insurance policy, it would have cost her just $800 a year. This was a hard lesson that thousands more then learned just a few weeks later when Hurricane Helene hit and brought unprecedented storm surge and flooding again. Well, Florida's largest insurer will soon require every homeowner to carry flood insurance. Still ahead, we are looking at when that policy takes effect and the impact that it's already having after this hurricane season. And later, new insurance rules for condos have driven up costs for homeowners. We are breaking down what's leading to those higher fees and why industry leaders say we are on the brink of a condo market collapse and how the state is now looking to step in.
Welcome back. New requirements from Citizens Property Insurance means more policyholders will soon have to get flood insurance even if they don't live in a flood zone. This is something that we've heard from a lot of viewers about. They voiced frustrations that insurance costs will go up even more.
So this is the Neptune policy.
Here's Doug Mason, now having to shop around for flood insurance even though he doesn't live in a flood zone. Emailing in his frustrations as he is now one of 18,000 Citizen policyholders who will get this notice this year.
To try to charge everybody for flood when you're not in flood and you purposely never bought in a flood area, that's wrong.
It's a phased approach by Citizens, requiring those in flood zones to add insurance last year, but now expanding it to those who don't live in flood zones. Starting this year, requiring it on properties valued at over $600,000. Next year, valued at over $500,000, 2026, $400,000, and by 2027, all homeowners on Citizens, flood zone or not, need to have flood insurance.
Yeah, it's insulting, It's just, it isn't right.
And the home we're talking about here, Doug actually rents out. He has 4 different units here and says with insurance rates continuing to climb and now that he has to pay for flood insurance, he has no other option than to pass those costs now to his tenants.
You have to raise rents. That's just the way it is. Taxes, insurance, water bills, they all go up.
Mark, the person who emailed us today, he says he feels, quote, insulted by the fact that he has to pay for flood insurance and he's not in a flood zone.
Our take is every Florida homeowner should consider flood insurance, not just flood zones.
Mark Friedlander is with the Insurance Information Institute and says state lawmakers made this move during their special session after Hurricane Ian flooded thousands of homes not in flood zones. But once again, with this move for the consumer, it means paying more for insurance again.
We understand that, and we certainly feel the pain. In most cases, flood insurance is not going to be that expensive to add.
Friedlander says Florida has more private insurers writing flood policies than anywhere else in the nation. That can offer an opportunity for you to shop around, as flood insurance rates are also rising.
Don't just get one quote from FEMA. Get at least a couple private flood quotes as well. See if you could do better.
Landing Mason with a policy with Neptune Insurance at just under $515 a year.
It's more or less tsunami insurance. I'm too high up, we will never flood here.
In St. Pete, Nadine Yanis, ABC Action News. Jane Patsfa Morgan actually emailed me back in April, and she was sharing the same frustrations as Doug, one of many that we've heard from who said that flood insurance requirement is quite literally pricing them out of paradise. She owns a mobile home in Largo, and when I first met her in April, we sat right here at her dining room table. She was in tears, worried that she wouldn't be able to afford her increased premium and now Citizens' new flood requirement at the same time.
If there's any way, please, do whatever you can to help us that can't help ourselves.
Well, last month, Jane called us back. She said because of flooding from Milton, her home is now a total loss. And she is grateful she was forced to get that flood insurance because now she's protected.
But it's devastating. It really is. So I hope they're listening. Find a way to pay your flood insurance. If it's a vacation or flood insurance, pay the flood insurance. Because when you lose everything, you lose everything. And you'll be thankful you have some coverage to be able to move on.
It was difficult to see her home in that state. Jane is, though, getting the full amount of coverage back. She says there's also a clause in her flood insurance policy that says if the city condemns her home, they will pay up to $30,000 to help with storage and relocation. Jane says once her home is demolished, she's moving, quite literally, priced out of her little paradise. And as Citizens decides to require flood insurance for all of its homeowners by 2027, many are wondering whether other insurance companies will follow suit. I-Team investigator Katie Lagrone looks at whether flood insurance could be required in the state in the future.
Tidal surge pushed in, really salty water.
After living in his Bradenton home for 20 years, Brian Zoller is about to do a first.
I've never made a claim before. So I'm really not sure on how the process works.
Zoller's home sits right across the street from the Manatee River.
Garage, like I said, had 3 or 4 feet in it. So all your storage bins with your entire life are filled with Manatee River water.
On Thursday, Hurricane Helene brought the river inside.
It was up maybe about 6 inches or so, just enough to get everything wet.
Zoller is one of an estimated 20% of Florida homeowners with flood insurance. Insurance insiders expect that number to jump at least temporarily. After a storm, it always does, they say.
I think that this will be kind of an eye-opener. We've had other eye-openers like Ian, Adelia, but this one has really hit the coast very hard. And I think that people will start paying more attention and actually buying flood insurance.
Chad Latour's business is flood insurance.
Do you see a day, or should there be a day, do you think, that flood insurance is mandatory for all homeowners, or at least more homeowners?
That's a great question. I've talked about that for years. Like, why don't lenders require it when there's a loan regardless of flood zone? It's an average of about 30% of those in low hazard areas suffer a flood loss. So, and those are the ones where the lender's not requiring it. So do they wake up and realize that they're losing, homes in these scenarios, or do they keep following what they've always done and just requiring it on high hazard?
This year, Citizens Property Insurance, the state-run insurer of last resort, started requiring policyholders in special hazard zones buy flood insurance in addition to homeowners insurance. But since most flood insurance is backed by the federal government, forcing private insurers to do the same is unlikely and would require a change in federal regulation, explains Professor Chuck Nice, head of the Risk Management and Insurance Department at Florida State University.
If I was to try to do that, if I owned an insurance company and I said, I'm going to require flood insurance when my competitors do not, that will probably put me at a competitive disadvantage. That's probably why you don't see private market insurance companies doing that.
I hate insurance.
Back at Brian Zoller's home, had he not been required to buy flood insurance, he says he probably wouldn't have. But now that he's got it and needs it, he's hopeful after 20 plus years, his flood insurance may finally pay off.
It's the one time where you're like, well, thank goodness I've got it, but it's kind of still up in the air whether they'll cover anything. I hope they will. They should. I've been paying for 25 years, probably paid more than I'm going to get out of the policy. But yeah, it's good that I've got it.
In Bradenton, I'm I-Team investigator Katie Lagrone taking action for you.
And if you are considering getting a flood policy after this storm season, FEMA is changing the game in a move that could actually make affording flood insurance easier for you. FEMA's National Flood Insurance Policy writes 90% of all flood insurance in the nation. But it's now offering a new option to let customers pay for those premiums in monthly installments instead of lump sums. Now, traditionally, these premiums were paid annually, and that made it too expensive for many. St. Pete insurance broker Jay Colehouse says it comes at a time where many right here in our area are now looking to get flood insurance.
So when we can really break that down into a monthly budget for a consumer, I think that it makes the hit rate of being able to carry flood insurance, even if I can't afford the $1,000 or the $600, but I can afford that $50 a month. I think it's really going to go a long way to allow a consumer that is on the fence to be able to make that type of decision.
The new option to offer monthly installments has already been approved, and it takes effect in January for both new and existing policyholders. All right, coming up, crippling costs of condo insurance with new condo reform, and it's driving condo owners out of paradise. But their homes are not selling. Why experts say a condo crisis is now looming in the state of Florida. And later, homeowners working to repair after Hurricane Debbie hit with a fee that they weren't expecting. When your hurricane deductible actually kicks in, and why you could have to pay that deductible even if it was just a tropical storm. Now, rising insurance prices are also impacting Florida's condo market. A Redfin report shows that more Floridians are offloading their condos. In February, the median sales price in Tampa metro area dropped 1% year over year. But the sales fell 4.1%. And then look at this, new listings jumped more than 27%. Condo owners are reaching out to us. They are voicing their frustrations and their fears that they too will be priced out of paradise. Karen Shipman actually owns a condo in Venice. She emailed us in saying, quote, insurance keeps going up, up, and up with no end in sight, saying living in Florida is becoming too expensive. I took a closer look at that report.
We are looking at the Gulf of Mexico, and this is the reason we bought this place, was for the view.
This second-story Gulfront condo in Venice was supposed to be Karen Shipman and her husband's last home. Retiring here from Pennsylvania in 2021, but now
We're on a fixed income. Could we afford to keep this place?
with condo insurance costs and HOA fees continuing to rise.
Even our mortgage has gone up by $1,000.
This new Redfin report says Florida's insurance crisis and new laws after the Surfside collapse are to blame.
Since Surfside, we also, on our personal homeowners insurance, have a surcharge. But before Surfside, that surcharge was around $100. Right now, I just renewed my policy for March, and I think it's almost up at $700.
And that's just a surcharge on her policy. Reasons Redfin says condo owners are now offloading their properties, no longer able to afford it.
Like, I want this to be our last place, but I'm not sure it will be if the cost keeps going up.
So the Redfin report that says in the state of Florida, condo sales year over year have dropped nearly 7%. This while listings have gone up 28%. These are very similar numbers for the Tampa Bay area, and we spoke with one realtor who says she's seeing it on the ground.
It's been on the market for 151 days. We've had 3 showings.
Barbara Schmall has been a real estate agent since the 90s and has never seen the Florida condo market this bad.
We can't get people to come to open houses. None of the agents who have buyers are calling.
And says it's particularly hitting those on fixed income.
And that's what made Florida, we're the 55 over retirees who really created our beautiful state. And now they're being punished for it.
Condo owners pay for insurance twice, with their own policy for their unit and through their HOA and what's called a Master Condo Association policy. According to the Insurance Information Institute, those policies are going up anywhere from 100 to 500% right now.
I felt like Florida was such a paradise, and sometimes with the rising cost and everything, I feel like it's paradise lost now.
A Bay Area homeowner had to pay his hurricane deductible over damage not caused by a hurricane. Still ahead here on ABC Action News, when your deductible kicks in and the frustration over these technicalities. We turn next here to a situation you definitely want to know about, hurricane deductibles. It makes sense when you're filing a claim after hurricane damage, but one man in Palm Harbor actually reached out to us when he was hit with a deductible for damage not caused by a hurricane, but rather a tropical storm. ABC Action News reporter Jada Williams got answers for him and clearing up confusion for you.
We have a leak. You can see the stains. It was pouring out through here as well and through this light fixture.
That's what Juan Mercado woke up to August 4th. Evidence that Tropical Storm Debbie had dumped water into his home overnight.
I walked out and I see it pouring down. So I opened it and I put a bucket there to make sure that it's caught.
And that wasn't the only leak.
Do you want to see the one inside?
Right in his living room, another one.
Yes, right there to the left and on this side as well. On this one is bubbling as well. So I'm scared that it's affecting this structure here as well.
So Juan Mercado filed an insurance claim with State Farm.
This is the latest thing I put in there is the estimate for State Farm.
The claim in his hand, a far cry from what he was expecting.
It was $2,900 and some dollars for a regular deductible, and it was $11,700 and plus dollars for a hurricane deductible.
Mercado was shocked to see a hurricane deductible, seeing as his damage came days before Debbie upgraded to a hurricane. And by then, those hurricane force winds were in North Florida, not here in Tampa Bay. He tried to do some research.
So I try to recreate the path, and I try to, with times and dates of when it became a hurricane and when it did not. And apparently that's irrelevant.
So I asked Mark Friedlander with the Insurance Information Institute why Mercado had to pay that deductible. despite the fact that his damage came from Tropical Storm Debbie.
State regulation requires all insurers to implement a hurricane deductible once a watch is issued. So if a hurricane watch is issued in any part of Florida, the entire state is under the hurricane deductible provision, and that lasts until 72 hours after the last watch or warning is issued.
Is there anything you can do about that?
It's very clear. It's a state regulation. There's no gray areas. It's a very strict policy.
It may not be illegal, but it's so it might not be an injustice, but it's not just.
Adding to his frustration, State Farm's estimate fell just $800 short of his deductible.
The insurance companies, they're structured to not pay you. So they have this set up specifically so they don't have to pay the claims. And that's why I reached out.
Jada Williams, ABC Action News.
This year, Florida launched a new program to help make sure that you do not get scammed into a contract or sign away all of your insurance money. It's called the Check My Contract program. Homeowners can upload their contract with roofers, contractors, public adjusters, and more to State CFO Jimmy Petronis' office. He says experts will then look at the language to make sure that you are not getting scammed. It does come as the insurance fraud team has already come in contact with those preying on hurricane victims right here in the Bay Area.
At the end of the day, it's just like the rep said, there's a disaster taking place. We need repair services. We need roofers. We need mitigation specialists. But I tell them, pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered. If you're taking advantage of our policyholders by absorbing all of their claims dollars and giving them nothing to rebuild with, then that's not a policy that we want to see existing in the state of Florida.
Now, Petronis said if you get into a contract and you do find something wrong with it, new state law gives you 10 days to get out of that agreement as long as work hasn't already started. For more information on this Check Your Contract program, head over to preparefl.com. Condo owners in Florida are having a hard time selling. Still ahead, how insurance regulations are playing a role in Florida's condo market right now. And later, a program helping you make improvements to your home and saving you money on insurance costs. We're breaking down how it works and the success some homeowners say they're already seeing. Welcome back, and thank you for staying with us as we take a look at the state of insurance in Florida. The rising costs are playing a role in tanking Florida's condo market right now. A report out earlier this year shows the Tampa housing market had the highest jump in HOA fees in Florida. They were 17% higher than the year before, and that's costing condo owners an average of $614 in HOA fees. That's on top of their mortgage. And it's leading to falling condo prices, but no one is buying. One realtor actually emailed me concerned that her condos are not selling.
Well, this condo is a lovely condo.
Realtor Barbara Schmall has done everything she can think of.
I've had 10 showings, and I've done about 30 open houses. Open houses, nobody appears to come to see the properties.
To get movement on the condos she's trying to sell.
This has been on the market for 218 days.
At $214,000.
At 214, a mile to the beach.
And 2 miles away at Village de Gulf, it's even worse.
This condo has been on the market for 398 days.
And she pulled the data.
In Pinellas County, just condos currently on the market are 2,691 active listings.
For context there, how many is that? A lot?
Oh, I've never, normally it would be maybe 800, 900.
Redfin reports in July, the Tampa housing market saw the highest jump in HOA fees year over year, up 17%, citing two reasons. Reform after the Surfside collapse, forcing condo associations to make safety repairs and pass those costs to condo owners, and insurance costs still rising.
Well, since I've been here since about 2010, my condo fee was around $250. Now it's $670.
Condo owner Jim Bell is on a fixed income. Not only are he and his neighbors about to be hit with an up to $10,000 special assessment for a new roof, but insurance is driving up his monthly HOA too.
You're going to get priced out of it. They just need to get out of our lives, citizens. Just do their insurance thing and leave us alone. Stop changing the laws.
They didn't think about this new law thoroughly or even talk to people who live in these different types of condos.
And that's why you emailed me.
Yes, because we need to get the word out to Tallahassee that you have to do something.
And the calls are growing louder for a special session in Tallahassee to roll back or revise the Surfside reforms. But in a statement earlier this month, Senate President Kathleen Passidomo does not believe it's in the best interest to do so. Instead, she wants to wait until after the elections for all lawmakers to discuss this at next year's legislative session. In Largo, Nadine Yanis, ABC Action News. And just weeks after that Redfin report, Governor Ron DeSantis held a roundtable to look at possible solutions to help ease the pressure on these condo owners. The focus of the roundtable was on reforms put in place after the collapse of a condo building in Surfside, Florida. There, almost 100 people died. Then legislators passed significant reforms, and those included requiring condo buildings to complete inspections and then make preventative repairs by December 31st of this year. There's also a provision that requires condos to fully fund their reserves for future repairs. But condo owners and associations says that this has led to sky-high special assessments and makes living in a condo unaffordable. Former state senator Jeff Brandes said the problems aren't just creating an affordability crisis in Florida's condo market, but this could cause a complete condo market collapse.
We're talking about tens of thousands, probably hundreds of thousands of Floridians who are impacted by this, that are left without options. And it's a lot of heartbreak, and it's bankruptcies, and it's foreclosures.
Now, Brandes suggested a one-day special session to address the issue. This is something the governor said that he does want done by the end of this year. Other proposed solutions include pushing back the deadline for fully funding those reserves and offering zero-interest loans to condo associations to fund the repairs and space out the payments. Meanwhile, the state is taking action, and it's launching the My Safe Florida Condo Pilot Program. The new initiative helps condo associations strengthen their properties against hurricanes. This is very similar to the My Safe Florida Home Program that's been very popular with homeowners around the state. State lawmakers allocating $30 million for this pilot program. It applies to condo associations, not individual condo owners. That's very important. But under the program, eligible condo associations will get a free inspection and can apply for state grants to make those improvements. We have the link to apply on our website, abcactionnews.com. And coming up, we are hearing the success stories about the My Safe Florida Home Program, how it's helping homeowners this hurricane season. And later, it's not just homeowners struggling with rising insurance costs, but we're also talking to business owners about the impacts they're seeing and how it's affecting their business. Well, before the break, we told you about the successful My Safe Florida Home Program now expanding to condos. The My Safe Florida Home Program offers homeowners up to $10,000 in state grant money to harden their home with the goal to bring down those insurance rates. And an added plus here, your home is safer in storms. We saw that firsthand with one man who lives in Town and Country after Hurricane Helene.
I'm ABC Action News anchor Heather Lee in the Baycrest Park neighborhood of Town and Country. This is in Hillsborough County. Neighbors here tell me they saw several feet of water inside their homes, and it was just an awful situation out here. But I did speak with one man who says his new hurricane sliders, windows, and doors likely kept most of that water out. It's the type of house tour you never want to give.
Still, it smells a little funky. My remediation team is starting. They just haven't chopped the walls up yet.
Thomas Duhigg was gracious enough to let us into his Baycrest Park home to show us how it fared during Hurricane Helene.
And looking at the news reports, I'm thinking this is it. It's the end of it. It's not going to get worse. I take a flashlight, I go out and I look, and the water was just over the seawall, which is not that threatening.
A short time later, the power cut, and when he looked again, the water was up to the pool cage. 45 minutes after that, waves in his pool. A water line along his brand new hurricane-grade sliders shows how high it got.
The water line's there on the outside, but tell me, it didn't get all the way in.
Dumb luck, I just had these hurricane windows installed, and it came in here through the track. So otherwise, it would have been that deep throughout. So, still, I have damage, but it could have been much worse.
About 8 inches inside instead of 2 feet, like many of his neighbors.
How fortunate do you feel to have replaced your windows and doors before this storm?
Extremely, extremely, yeah. And I gotta say, the incentive was the Florida program, the MySafe Florida. You know, these cost $30,000. You know, they're not cheap, and I get it. There's a lot of engineering into it and that, but the state paid me $10,000 of that. So win-win, you know, real win.
Like most in the neighborhood, he's had to toss out furniture and other personal waterlogged belongings. But he says these doors and windows likely saved his home from significantly more damage.
And when were they installed? Like
Maybe 4 months ago. I know.
Wow, dude, tiny.
Yeah, yeah.
Seriously though.
Yes.
Because
yeah.
what was here before? Just
Yeah, aluminum clad, you know, the old style, you know, heat sinks.
He says he was able to file an insurance claim on his phone finally, and he's also been working with his insurance agent so he can focus on the house. Many neighbors tell me they have never seen flooding inside their home, and so many of them just didn't leave. Thomas says that he did not evacuate. He admits he probably should have, so next time, he says he's gone. In Town and Country, Heather Lee, ABC Action News.
And many businesses saw damage during this past hurricane season, adding to costs they're already paying in rising premiums. How those rising rates are putting a strain on business owners. But it's not just homeowners feeling the strain here. Many of you are telling us that business insurance is also on the rise. It is putting a burden on shops in our area as they work to recover from damage after Hurricanes Helene and Milton. Pinellas County reporter Casey Albritton went into the community to learn how much insurance is now impacting our local businesses.
It makes it tough.
You know, it just makes it more difficult.
Business owners in Largo say insurance has skyrocketed within the last year.
Everybody I talk to, all my friends, all that have businesses, restaurants, whatever. When I mention it, they all went, ugh.
Adam Gentile owns Largo Feed and Pet Supply and says his insurance is costing him thousands.
Started out at being like $10,000 more than I paid last year, and they shopped it around and found me someone that's about $6,000 more.
Commercial insurance has gone up over the last few years following major hurricanes that have caused damage, like Hurricane Ian in 2022 and Hurricane Idalia in 2023. Gentile says other business insurances have also increased.
You know, automobile insurance went up probably about $5,000. You know, then health insurance, of course. So it's gone up a lot.
Barbara Johnson works at Salon 314 in Largo and says she's having to make some adjustments.
I will need to raise my prices as I go along, and the clients' paychecks don't go up, so it's very difficult for them to do these things.
And with those rising insurance costs, business owners say they're having to make some tough decisions and cut some of their products to make ends meet.
Products that aren't moving, you know, real good. Trying to just keep stuff in here that sells on a regular basis.
But despite the insurance, both Johnson and Gentile say they will do everything they can to keep their doors open.
I love doing it because I like dealing with people. I've always worked with people, retail sales basically, but I love talking to customers.
Hang in there, it will get better, I hope.
I'm Pinellas County reporter Casey Albritton, ABC Action News.
Now, we have been hearing for years that the property insurance market will get better, and many are wondering how much longer will it take still to come? Why one man who sets and approves insurance rates says the tide on our insurance crisis is finally turning. For years now, we have heard that relief in the property insurance market was just months away. First 6 months, then 12 months, then 18. Well, we have now passed all of those deadlines, and many are wondering, when will that relief come? Our Capitol reporter Forrest Saunders sat down with the man overseeing Florida's insurance market. He tells us there are good signs, and it's finally happening.
For months now, Floridians from coast.
My house payment started at $1,100, then they went up to $1,500 and $1,600. From $1,600, it dumped to $3,000.
To coast.
We are unable to offer you a renewal policy due to a reduction in our hurricane exposure.
Have told us their frustrations on property insurance and what they see is a lack of response from lawmakers at the Capitol.
They got no answers. They're politicians. That's all they are.
Well, after years of grant programs and reform, making the state-backed insurer of last resort citizens less competitive and restricting insurance lawsuits to ease prices, state officials said this week it's working. Citizens' surplus is stronger, the state's private companies are netting profits, and 8 new property and casualty insurers have entered Florida's market.
We're seeing data that indicates it is having an impact, and so we want to see what that looks like before we change things completely.
That's Insurance Commissioner Michael Jaworski, who reaffirmed the good news Thursday. But the big question for Floridians remains. Where's my relief?
That is the question. We've seen the average homeowners insurance rates go from they go up about 60% over the past 3 years. We're seeing it at about an average of $3,400 a year, and I think we'll see hopefully some leveling off of that first before we see any reductions. But there are indicators that are looking promising.
It comes a month after the 2024 legislative session, which Democrats and the super minority criticized for not enacting more reform or offering taxpayers direct relief.
I don't know what it will take. It really seems to me like the Republicans are turning a blind eye and a deaf ear to Floridians who are in crisis right now.
For its part, the GOP has said it's trying to make the market more competitive and let capitalism do its thing to drive down prices. The House Speaker telling us this recently.
All the things you would hope to see as an initial step towards an improvement are happening. But the last part of that is the rates, unfortunately, and I just can't flip a switch.
But it's becoming a deeper and deeper frustration for Floridians. New polling from Progress Florida shows more than 60% disapprove of the governor's handling of the insurance crisis. And the hits may keep coming if relief doesn't arrive in the near future.
Everything is generally showing that we're sort of hopefully moving out of the emergency room and into the recovery room.
Now, the legislature did do some things to address the affordability crisis here in Florida, like passing another big tax relief package, as well as funding, again, that home hardening grant program and expanding it in a pilot program to condos. But all of that is still contingent on the governor's signature. That's the latest out here at the state capitol. I'm Forrest Saunders reporting.
Now, so many of these stories you've been watching came from viewers just like you. If you have an insurance story, question, or concern, I want to hear from you. Just scan this QR code on your screen to reach out to me directly. You can also find all of our reporting on the state of insurance in Florida right now on our website at abcactionnews.com/insurance. There, we have also posted insurance resources for you, including what you need to know when purchasing flood insurance, a list of insurance providers, and how to apply for state programs that could bring down your rates, because we are committed to helping you navigate it all. That is it for our special edition of ABC Action News, the state of insurance. Thank you for joining us. I'm Nadine Yanis.